Welcome to the More For Me podcast by yours truly, Kat Necole. What up, homie? What's going on? It seems like it's been forever. It was like last year, the last time I saw you. Welcome to 2021 and the More For Me podcast. If this is your first time joining me, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for joining us and welcome. If this is not your first time, welcome back. Glad to have you here. Just a little brief introduction. More for me. What is it all about? Well, I know that God has and wants more for me in this life than I could ever think of for myself. But I also believe the same thing for you, for your life. And so here on the More For Me podcast, I am just sharing my experiences, past and present, and letting you know what I've been through, how I made it over, some of the lessons that I've learned, and sharing tips and tricks and things that have been working for me. Sometimes I am a work in progress. So I'm not looking back. I am just living through what's going on in my life and sharing that with you. And I hope that my journey shared is encouragement to you on your journey. Each destination that God has identified for every one of us is unique, just like each one of us. And so our journey may not look the same, but you will still find encouragement in what I share that I'm going through and with some of the guests that I have coming on to bless us with their journey and how they're heading towards the destination of more that God has for them. All that being said, again, welcome and thank you for joining. I would love if you would take a moment and just subscribe. You can turn on your notifications to ensure that you're aware when the fresh content, new episodes are dropping. You get a new episode every Tuesday for your eyes and ears from my heart. And I hope you do just that. But while we're here today, make sure that you like, share, comment, rate, and review. Those things are going to make it possible for other people to know that the More For Me podcast is out there and that God wants more for them as well. So if you would indulge me and partake in those actions that I just shared, I would be very appreciative of just that. But let's get to it, man. Last week, we ended the year of 2020 and stepped into a new decade, a new year, and that's 2021. One of the thoughts that was heavy on my mind as I was looking on social media and listening to some of the things that people were saying, I thought, new year, same God. That's that good old Ty Tribbett, same God, right? Back then, the same God he is right now. So we're in a new year, but we still have the privilege of being children of the same God. And the great thing about my God is that he does not change. So I'm going to continue to give him praise because it's the same guy who from yesterdays of bringing the children of Israel out of Egypt and taking them to the promised land, the same God that gave Abraham and Sarah a baby in their old age, the same God that took care of David in the line. Like, this is the same God. You get where I'm going with this. This is the same God. So even though we're in a new year, it's the same God, which means that we have yet another chance to press on, move forward in this journey towards our destination of more. And I am super excited about it. But before I jump into the new year, I just want to take a quick look back. I said it last week. That's what we're going to be doing more of. What I will definitely be doing more of is reflecting back. Last week, I had the opportunity to travel to Florida, actually. My youngest brother, he got married. First of all, I know y'all heard me sing that before. But yes, my brother got married, and it was just an awesome occasion. Like, to be a part of the covenant. It was my kid's first wedding. My son was in the wedding. It was on the beach. It was awesome. It was amazing. Our family is growing, so it's great to have a new sister. But I also got to see my family, my mom, my sister, two of my brothers. Like, it was just amazing. My nieces, to spend the time together, to kick it and just enjoy and fellowship and love and get those hugs. It was just also amazing. Shout out to my big sister, Straw. I got a chance to hug her before I left, and man, it was just nice to hug, embrace, and even shed a few tears in her arms, just to feel the love. And I miss her so much. But really, really good spending time with my family. But one of the things that happened during last week was I got a chance to let a little bit of me shine. And what do I mean by that? I'm often, dropping random song lyrics or rap lyrics on the podcast. I talk about my freestyle and all that, but I also enjoy dancing. So at the wedding, during the reception, I had the chance to bust a few moves, break it down Detroit style, get your jit on, watch my feet. If you are curious, unlike my freestyle, in which I keep to myself most of the time, you can't find an episode or two where I drop some bars. But if you go on Instagram, check me out at I am Kat Necole. You can watch a girl cut a mean rug, as they used to say back in my father's day. But check that out. Hopefully you enjoy it. I enjoy it. My family enjoys it. Most Detroit folk, you get a little bit of home with that with the music. Some people in other cities, you have like DC has I think they call it beat your feet. Chi-Town, Chicago, they call it footwork. But in Detroit, you have jitting. And that's something that I used to partake in. And every now and again, I let it out the bag. So it was kind of like a wedding gift for my brother and his beautiful bride. Not really. But go ahead and check it out on Instagram at I am Kat Necole. And I hope you enjoy it. I did. I surely do enjoy dancing. Now, enough of the previous year. Let's talk about this year. It's the top of the year. I'm, like I said, happy to be with you. And one of the things that is inevitable for everybody is to think about what is to come in the year ahead. Some people start planning last year. Some people don't plan at all. But I find myself kind of in the middle. I did some planning and thinking last year. I am still actively planning and working things out and seeing things come together. But I am a planner by nature, so I definitely do think some things through. And while last week we talked about looking back, learning how to look back, we also this week will dive into looking ahead. How fitting for the year of 2021. We're at the top of the year, and so we can start this thing the right way. And we are going to do just that right after this quick commercial break. And I'll be right back at you. And we're back. Let's jump right back into it and talk about looking ahead. What are we going to do in 2021? Today, I really just want to share some of the things that are on my heart for my life specifically, but more than try to give you a formula of exactly how to plan your year. We already know that the secret to success is obedience. Obedience equals success. So there's going to be a lot of that going on this year, trying to connect with God and understand where He wants us to be. And that way we know that we're on the right path headed towards the destination that God has for us. So that's a given or more for me, right? I know all the homies know it. So if you're new, you can catch up. You can take a step back and listen. But do know that obedience equals success is a pivotal philosophy and a principle that we apply with the homieship on More For Me. But more than the formula that some people may try to make you aware of, I'm just going to share again some of what I'm going to be doing this year and what I have been doing in preparation and thinking. And really at the heart of it all are the nuggets, the little reminders that I want to hold on to throughout the year. And I want you to do just the same so that we can be encouraged and continue the journey. I know there was a friend of mine, and he had a fourth quarter. Actually, two people I know, they had a motto or mantra for the fourth quarter of last year, and it was about finishing strong. So highlighting the fourth quarter and finishing strong. And so what I want for us is to be consistent throughout the year. We're going to start strong, we're going to be strong, and we're going to finish strong. And we're just going to try to keep momentum throughout the year, but taking away some nuggets that we'll be able to pull from our bag throughout the year as reminders. And there's things that we just lean on to help us get through. So for me, for the year 2021, my family, we have a family word. We were tasked with coming up with or asking God to give our family a word that was going to guide us in the year of 2021. And so for our family, our word is a unity. And so for me, that's where it's all starting. And it's with unity. In our household, between my husband and I, that we are seeking to be more aligned and on one accord with each other, but also with the will of God, and then to incorporate that with our family. And that happens to be something that we actually started in 2020. But we definitely feel that God is calling us to a different level in unity and truly being unified, not just from a visual perspective or from an outsider looking in, but for it to start on the inside and then move outward, but that we could be a unified family. From our perspective, biblically, we know that you think back to the Tower of Babel. Google that if you're unfamiliar with it. But with the Tower of Babel, there were people that came together. They were unified on an idea that they had. Now they were trying to build this tower to get to heaven, basically, to reach God. But because they were unified, they were going to be able to accomplish that goal, what they set out to do. Even though it wasn't a good thing, the right thing to do, however you want to look at that. But they were going to be able to accomplish that goal. And that's when you have the different languages coming in and out. The people can't necessarily, they can't communicate with each other in the same way and be unified because of that. But when they were unified, they could accomplish what they set to do. And that's at the heart of what Team Thompson is about in 2021, and not what we set out to do, but what God has called us to, and where He's taken us in this season. So we want to be unified, so we can do just that and do what He's put in our hearts to accomplish in 2021, and continue to lay a foundation for our family as a whole. So that is the overarching goals. I have other things that I would like to do in terms of families. You kind of break it down. I've shared before. Actually, I'm not sure if I shared this, but let me share that while I'm in California, there are 3 things that I'm focusing on, and that's my faith, family, and finances. 3 F's there. And those are the focal points. So I have things within each of those areas that I'll be focusing on within the year. A part of that being continuing to develop and structure the businesses that I started. That will all be coming soon and more to your eyes and ears in the near future. But working on that in terms of what God is asking me to do. Little teaser. Kat Necole, of course, is a business itself, but then also Stuart Little, focusing on stewardship. So that'll be coming soon to you. But those are some of the things that I've been thinking about. I have stuff, of course, with my health and fitness and dietary changes that I made, just continuing to understand, hey, what works for my body and how can I continue to improve and so on. So you have all these various topics and things that I have that I've been thinking about, that I've been working on, and that God has laid on my heart. I'm going to fast forward past all those details because that's not necessarily what you came here for, just for me reading my vision board, which, again, I don't do vision boards. But here's where it starts. What I am trying to do this year, what I am about doing, is looking at the big picture. Why is this important? I told you guys, I'm on that tunnel vision. I want to look like straight ahead, focus, like right in that one spot. I got it. I'm going after it. I'm going to get it. But I want to, this year, look at the big picture and see everything in front of me. When I look at the big picture, I am then able to be strategic, flexible, and effective because I can see the whole and how everything is working together. That's so good. I had to pause on it. But really, to be able to look at the whole, to see how everything is working together. And that way, there's no one thing that I could become so focused on that I get sidetracked from what I may be, what opportunities may be presented to me as I go along. Because when I'm so focused, I have a plan and it's set to go that way. And so I don't potentially see the detours or alternate routes, if you will, that God is giving me access to, and I just go full steam ahead, which means that I may not take the optimal route when I do just that. So I want to see the big picture, and I'm encouraging you guys to do just the same. Think about the big picture. Sometimes the big picture is just the year. Sometimes the big picture is further down the road, and it may be your vision of more, where God is ultimately taking you to. Decide how big picture will be for your life, and then you want to make sure that you're looking at that thing. Now, although we're focusing on big picture, because if things look too big for Kat, I can get overwhelmed. And sometimes being overwhelmed causes me to go into overdrive and get that thing done. Like, let's get it. Other times, being overwhelmed leads me to procrastination and avoidance. So I see that big picture. I have it. There it is. Looking pretty. I like that. I can work towards that. I'm motivated for more. But I don't forget to take a step back. And this is where my planning comes in. And I begin to look at smaller pieces, whether you're going to the granular level and or just smaller chunks so that the big picture seems feasible. What's that good saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Trunks up. So I want to make sure that I can look at the big picture, see the different components, and then come up with simple, scalable, sustainable. Those 3 S's. Shout out to Fridge Thompson and Freedom Church. But I can come up with something that is simple that for me to stick to, for me to execute and then stick to. So for example, last year, August, we started I started doing 50-mile per month challenges. So to walk, run, bike, whatever, 50 miles of cardio. And I have 2 groups that I do this with, but just 50 miles total at a minimum. And so I've been able to consistently do that every month. In the month of December, I said, you know what? I want to walk because I mainly walk. But I want to walk 3 miles a day at least. And then I realized that most months that'll put me closer to 100 miles. So I'm going to start with the goal of walking 3 miles a day. Once I'm able to consistently do that, then I will challenge myself that my next goal is going to be to hit 100 miles in a month, in a single month, which I have yet to do. Ultimately, my goal is to be a healthier version of myself, to be more physically fit. But at the most basic level, I want to start with walking at least 3 miles a day. And that's it. So big picture, I want to be basically like in the best shape of my life to date. So in order to do that, how can I get there? Step 1, I'm going to walk these 3 miles a day. Then after that, I can see a next goal of at least walking 100 miles a month. And in doing that cardio, it helps on the inside. But then I've also noticed that from a muscle standpoint, my legs are toning more and so on. So some of the desires I have, they're kind of all being met through this one thing. And that's just kind of one example of being able to say, okay, what are smaller ways that I can do this? I'm not going to start looking at the 100 miles per month or try to set a 3rd or 4th goal until I hit the 3 miles per day. And now there may be times when I'm able to do that consistently. There may be times when I struggle. I'll be honest. This past week, ending 2020, I mean, I was really well for the month. Then I looked up and it was it Friday? It may have been Thursday. And I had yet to walk at all that week because we left on Monday. So I basically didn't do anything. So I went ahead and got in 3 miles that day. And it's like, okay, from here, I'm not trying to make up for the days that I missed. It's just impossible at this point because we were still out of town. But hey, you know what? Let me get back to it. I'm not going to beat myself up because I did not do that. But I can continue on and say, let's resume and get back on track to do 3 miles a day. And so for me, that's really good because the 3 miles per day, it's already, because of what I've been doing, it's within reach in terms of something that I can actually accomplish. But I'm also being gracious to myself and not beating myself up, which I'm known to do, to be very hard on myself, but not to beat myself up because I didn't meet that goal, and make sure that it wasn't just because I'm quitting because like I don't feel like it. Like no, circumstances did not allow for me to, but when I could, I resumed. And now I'm back on track for trying to hit those 3 miles per day. So once I have that down and it's consistent, then I can look forward or ahead to the next thing and set a new milestone for me to reach as I journey towards the destination in terms of the area of fitness. I hope that helps in terms of kind of understanding just how practical and simple it is, right? We're not talking rocket science here or chemistry or science fair project. Like, no, it's not that involved. It really is simple. Like, what is your goal? Now, what are smaller steps that you can take to reach that goal? And you want to be consistent in those areas and keep on pressing until you get to the destination that you're aiming for. So looking at the big picture, but small bites and making sure that along the journey, I think this is really good too, is not to discount your progress. Whether or not I fell off last week and got back on the horse, or even if actually, I think for the month of December, I hit like 92.5 miles walked. Overall, because I was ahead, it looks like, per math, that I averaged at a little over 3 miles per day because there are 31 days in the month. Boom. Nope, darn it. Math's a little off. I was a little bit shy of it, so I'm right there. So I can celebrate and say, yes, I made it. However, I know I didn't walk 3 miles. There were some days when I did like 5 or 6 miles, and that put me a little bit ahead. But I'm not going to discount the progress that I made. That's the most number of miles that I've walked. And I did a little bit of running. But that's the most number of miles that I've put in since I started this thing, which would have been since August, but in general, ever in my life. So I'm going to make sure that I celebrate that. Even though it wasn't the specific milestone I set out, there's still room to celebrate that I am developing a habit and becoming more disciplined about this area of my life. And so I'm going to make sure that I celebrate the progress. We always, whether it's this or that, need to make sure we take time and celebrate the progress. In the moment when you celebrate, just as well as when you look back, it's an opportunity to encourage yourself, to acknowledge that you have made progress, but then also to celebrate God and praise him, right? Because all good things come from God. So we want to make sure that we're taking time to do just that. Hey, God, I know I couldn't have got those miles in without you. Like, you gave me the wisdom in terms of adjusting my schedule when the kids were out of school, but still being able to get those miles in versus them being in class. Like, you worked through all of that, and it's because of you that I was able to do it. You gave me the physical ability, and so on and so forth. Now, another thing that even in that same example that I want us to think about is that we are looking for progress, not perfection. And this is something that I think it will be a challenge for me in the year, and that I'll definitely be reminding myself of a lot, that in what I'm doing and what I set out to do, it's not perfection that I'm looking for, but for progress. I tend to have very high standards, and I'm very hard on myself. And so it's easy for me to, again, not celebrate because I am just so focused on it being done a certain way or within a certain time. And so I encourage you guys to give yourself grace and remember that it's not perfection that we are looking for, again, but it is just that we are making progress. Because even in that progress, we are growing, we are evolving, and seizing those opportunities to become a better version of ourselves. And every step forward that we take, we're closer towards that, closer to the destination of more that God has for each and every one of us. So as we look at 2020 and try to identify exactly what is on our agenda for this year, we want to make sure that whatever plan we have, that we write it down, because it's not a plan if it's not written. So we want to get it out of our head and put it on some paper, lay it on the wax, but write it down. Once you write it down, what you overall should write down or capture, whether it's pictures and vision boards or literally you're writing it down, however you choose to capture it, but that you have your big picture of where you're going. And that may be a couple pictures for different areas, or it may just be one big picture. From that big picture, you then want to identify smaller steps or ways for you to get, like, how can I get from where I am today to said point? And those points need to be at some type of frequency. We don't want to look at the entire year because that's pretty overwhelming. And you can blink and now you're at fourth quarter again, trying to cram everything in and say that you had an effective year or that you were able to accomplish what you set out to do. So if we said quarterly, monthly, weekly, whatever milestones in terms of frequency of touching base and kind of checking in with how you're doing as far as your goals or your motivations are related. You want to utilize that. So let's say we're doing monthly touch point. We go back to my fitness. So if it's a monthly check-in, then at that monthly check-in, I utilize that to say, okay, every month I have a marker to say this is what I should be doing. And then at a month's time, how am I doing there? Do I need to adjust my milestones? But I'm going to, one, make sure that I'm taking the smaller bites. So not a year at a time, but the month, the week, whatever. Two, I am going to acknowledge any progress that I made, regardless of where I'm at my milestone check-in. And three, I'm going to make sure that I give myself grace as I go through this, because I'm not looking for perfection. I'm actually just looking for progress, because perfection is obtainable, but we can always make progress. So those are some things that I am keeping in my back pocket, really at the forefront of my mind as we embark upon this year of 2021. I can just feel that it's going to be an amazing year for the homieship to have a full year to ride this thing out together, to grow, to continue to encourage each other and expose each other what God is capable of doing as we share our testimony and what's happened to us thus far on our journey towards the destination of more that God has for us. And so there you have it. Thank you for tuning in today. Appreciate you hanging out with me in the studio. And I know that 2020 is going to be a great year, because I'm definitely believing in that for my life and for yours. If this episode has blessed you, I encourage you, please like it, comment, and share it. I would love for you to rate and review the podcast as well. But in the meantime, let's take these notes and really take them to heart, so that as we progress through this year, we know that on the journey that there's going to be mountains, there'll be valleys, there'll be speed bumps, potholes, and you might find $20 on the road. But no matter what, God is with you, and we're able to get through anything. So make sure that you're looking at the big picture, taking smaller bites, not looking for perfection, but progress as you journey towards whatever's in store for your 2021. I can't wait to meet you back here next week for another episode. And again, remember, God has more for me. God has more for you. Now let's get it. Take care.